My Lords, I'm going to talk now. I want to wholeheartedly support the Amendment 46 in the name of Noble Lords Davis Gower and Lord Sandhurst. And I look forward to hearing Lord Sandhurst, and I apologise, but let me just make this point. I wanted to put my name on this group, but I missed the deadline, but I think it's a crucial group that I really hope the government will be very positive about, because the nighttime economy is very worried that its venues are going to be really badly affected by this. And I think it would be very constructive for the government to adopt this amendment and act as some kind of reassurance. Can I note that I was especially inspired to get involved in supporting Amendment 46, actually indirectly at least, by the Prime Minister. Yesterday, on the front page of the Daily Mirror, Keir Starmer is there saying that he backs the fight to save the Great British Pub. If I can quote him, "There's nothing any of us like better than going to the local for a pint, myself included. They are places where friends, family, community come together around something which is very British, the pub. It's a place of warmth, of opportunity to have a nice time with friends, family, and for people to meet with friendship and engagement, and that's very important to well-being." The Prime Minister was supporting a campaign to save pubs precisely because pubs are struggling. And data from the Valuation Office Agency in December showed the number of pubs in England and Wales fell by 402 last year, and this was a net figure that takes into account new pubs opening, and it doesn't include premises standing empty that are still classified as pubs. And as pub numbers plunged by more than 2,000 since the start of 2020, and with industry experts such as Alex Partners warning that 3,000 more pubs, bars, restaurants and clubs are at risk of closing in 2025, I really just want the government to know that this bill represents another burden, and we should at least keep our eye on, monitor and be accountable as to whether unintended consequences will damage the sector. Yes, publicans and experts blame a cocktail of supply and staffing costs, rising energy bills and those controversial crippling NIC rises, contributions, but stakeholders raise all the time regulatory demands and the costs that has in terms of licensing, and there is a certain dread of what this legislation will mean, especially because pubs are trying to make more of themselves as venues for quiz nights, community choirs. In Neil Davenport's letter on Liberty, Pubs Defending the Free House, there's that whole discussion about a mini boom post-lockdown of pubs as new live music venues. And that thrill of face-to-face live events and the public square as a place of freedom is lucrative as well. And I would just think we need to be careful that unintentionally this bill doesn't end up killing that off. There's obviously a similar story with nightclubs, but I won't go into that except to note that the nighttime economy, particularly nightclubs, does generate billions of pounds directly for that sector, but also there is secondary spending across transportation, security and food services. And so this regulatory burden does need to be looked at. Now, I thought about speaking on this, and I thought, how's it going to seem right at the end of the bill that I stand up and say going to the pub and going out clubbing is more important than public safety? I was frightened that by the interpretation, which is why I was trying to give myself a bit of cover by quoting the Prime Minister. But I do not think that fear of the unintended consequences of potential mission creep or things that haven't been seen, or the impact on an industry, should be treated as trivial. And just to note that I have some friends who are involved in running nightclubs in Tel Aviv, arguably one of the nighttime industry capitals of the world, let alone the Middle East. And they really are rather security conscious, and they really do know something about the threat of terrorism. And when I showed them this bill, they were quite shocked at the over-regulatory nature of it. So I think that I simply raise that because I think that all the time I've been worried that this bill isn't going to address the public safety issues. And at the very least, in terms of the points made already about evidence-based accountability in terms of this policy, it's very important. But I also want to quote the Minister, if I may, back at himself when he was explaining the Henry VIII powers, which I disagree with in the bill, when he said there needs to be some flexibility here for different circumstances. We need to be able to respond with flexibility, and I understand that. And so one of the things that appeals to me about this review is that if the government sees after 18 months that this bill is not actually necessarily leading to more public safety, but is killing off a very important industry for a free society, then you can adapt accordingly. Whereas if you don't have the review, we'll never know.